All right, let's talk now about the execution. The execution. After you have this wonderful plan for your vision, it's time to execute. It's time to go to work, if you will. And there's a section in my book which is entitled Steps to Advance Your Vision. And there's a quote that really struck a nerve with me, and I'll share it. And it's from Thomas Edison. It says, "Vision without execution is hallucination. Vision without execution is hallucination." And I don't want anybody to simply be hallucinating as it pertains to your vision. And one thing that I've learned over the years, and how I try and approach working in ministry, working in on these projects that I've mentioned in my professional career, is regardless of the type of project, I try and employ a systematic approach to getting things done, to executing. And this is something that when I was back to my undergraduate days, is when I was in those calculus classes, I was in those physics classes, chemistry, I was in there trying to understand the content that the professor was sharing. I was trying to understand the content in the books that I was reading. And some Saturdays, I would just spend the entire Saturday just studying, practicing problems, because what I was able to boil it down to is understanding that, Rufus, you're learning how to apply a systematic approach to executing a problem in these different disciplines. So my Saturday work was doing practice problems so that I could understand, okay, with these certain amount of variables, I apply this particular equation, I run these variables through this equation, and I'll get the appropriate answer. And my approach to project management, vision engineering is exactly the same. Regardless of the variables of input, I'm going to run them through a systematic approach so that we can get systematic results. So again, as you move forward with the execution of your vision, I want you to think about the same thing, because I understand sometimes your vision, it could be abstract. It could be something that you've never seen done before. It could be something that's so grand that it can be intimidating. But regardless of how grand, regardless of how abstract, what I'm saying is that there's a systematic approach that you can apply to get your vision to manifest. And that's really what I'm sharing in my book in this section entitled Steps to Advance Your Vision. And, that's one thing that it's important, that you'll never be intimidated by your vision, because I know at times it could be overwhelming. Sometimes you could be in your vision, or you're working on your new book. Those of you that are authors, or those of you who are entrepreneurs, you're trying to figure out, even as an author now, I understand the brevity of, okay, you write a book, now what? How do you market it? How do you publish it? How do you distribute it? How do you get speaking engagements? How do you make profit off of it? Those things are just not intuitive, and they're not easy. But again, as you study experts in those different disciplines, there's a systematic approach that you can apply so that you can get the desired results. It's no different. So again, as we're talking about engineering your vision, we're talking about this systematic approach to executing your vision. And we've already talked about some of them. We've talked about, one of the steps to advance it is creating a team. You have to know who are the right people that should be part of this team to execute your vision. You gotta, that's a big part of this thing, because truth be told, your team members can make or break the execution of your vision. I remember there were days in ministry when my pastor, he would get up, he would teach leadership trainings once a month for the entire staff, and eventually start inviting the entire congregation, those who wanted to be in leadership. They would come out, he would get up, he would begin to lecture, teach, empower, equip, etc. And in these sessions, he would always share a new idea. And it could be something like, hey, I'm interested in creating this new program that we currently don't have to serve the community or serve the congregation. And, he would just release as a visionary. He would articulate what was on his heart, or that which God had placed on his heart. And part of the challenge to the leadership was, how do we respond to the vision? Okay, back to the response to the vision. And over time, we understood how to respond to the vision. And part of that responding to the vision was responding in a systematic approach. Because no matter what the new idea was, regardless what the vision was, guess what? We had to transcribe the vision. We had to take his words and write them down. Then we would have to build a team. We would have to see who's going to oversee this new idea, this new ministry, this new concept. And then we had to figure out, well, who was going to come alongside this nominated leader to build it out? Then how are we going to distribute it to the community? How are we going to distribute it to the congregation? Again, this automatic approach, it didn't happen day one, but eventually it became very systematic, and I remember seeing it time and time again. There was a community-based nonprofit that was about serving and empowering the youth. I remember that came, they built out a team. They got educators that were in the congregation to put together this nonprofit, that would serve the community, tutoring and mentoring in high schools, etc., right there in the city, that we were part of. And I remember there was a marketplace ministry that he wanted to do, Kings and Queens ministry. So again, we put a small team together. Let's do it. Let's put a small team together, and let's build it out. Let's present it, to our community and to our congregation. There was a scholarship fund, evangelism ministry, deliverance ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry, you name it. Regardless of what individual new ministry needed to be developed, what did we do? We took that idea and put it through this systematic approach that we were developing. And guess what? We would get results. We would get results. And guess what? You have the same opportunity to get these results, because it's all about taking a disciplined approach to executing your vision. Just like I was talking about how I wasn't disciplined in my approach to the business planning process. So guess what? My results were somewhat hindered. Same thing with you. As you take a disciplined approach, not only to planning, but to executing your vision, you will be able to see results that will exceed your expectation. It can happen. It can happen. Let's talk about how to start implementing your plan. Because again, now that we're in execution, it's important that you know what to do to literally start implementing your plan and start moving your vision forward. I'll never forget, there was a gentleman that I used to report to a number of years ago, and I won't call his name, but he was very influential in my development as a project manager. And let me just set the stage of what we were doing. I was working as a project manager in a very fast-paced environment, and our team was responsible for managing a number of projects, and we didn't have a huge staff. It was a very small staff. And my director, he was a lot more experienced than me, And I would shadow him and see how he would tackle projects and tackle clients and tackle engineers, architects, general contractors, and etc. And one of the things that I took away from how he would do his thing is he would always schedule meetings. And it sounds very simple, but there was a method to this simple approach to really executing projects or executing vision. He would always have a meeting scheduled for a particular project. He would just lay them out very sequentially. And I know in this day and age, some people, they like to try and manage by way of text messaging, manage by way of emails, and all of that's good. But an easy way to start implementing your vision and your plan is to schedule team meetings, with your stakeholders, with yourself, with your board of advisors and your board of trustees, if you will, and with your project team, with your staff, so that you have all these groups of people that are executing the things that they're responsible for. And then you have status meetings to just check in and get a status, get an update on where people are at. And it's good to do because, again, you may not know how to start. And what I'm saying is just start somewhere. And again, scheduling frequent weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings, monthly meetings, it will get the train going. And as you'll see is different people will have different deliverables at different cadences or different frequencies. So again, you may have a board of advisors. You only need to meet with them maybe quarterly or monthly, maybe. And again, those folks that are on those boards, they will have deliverables and you'll have deliverables, that you'll need to present to them. And, there'll be a mutual accountability, that is expressed in these meetings. Then maybe your staff or your leadership team, if it's your operational leadership team, you'll need to be meeting with them weekly at a minimum, or that's a good frequency, because every week there should be steps being taken to move this vision forward. Because unless if your vision is just a hobby and it's just something you're kind of tinkering on, just like that car in the garage that you've been tinkering on for the last 15, 20 years, you can tinker. But if you're really trying to move your vision forward, there needs to be an investment of time consistently to, watch this, move the vision forward. So again, you may have, and what I'm trying to help you understand and help you see is that this meeting frequency will be different for different people. So again, you may have your board frequency, meeting frequency. Then you could have your leadership meeting frequency. Maybe that's weekly. And then you may have individual teams meeting on a different frequency, so that there's communication that's happening at the particular level that it needs to happen in order to move the vision forward. Some people hate meetings. Let's just be honest. And to be honest, visionaries, high level communicator, guess what? You may not want to meet. That's why you need to have somebody that's serving as your project manager, as your vision engineer, that loves meetings, because they understand that meetings are a vehicle to get things done and to track things to make sure that they're moving forward. So again, an easy way to begin the implementation of your plan is to have meetings scheduled, have agendas, have follow-up action items, and then have the follow-up meeting, so that as you go throughout your calendar, you can begin to track the progress. Guess what? In January, we were here with the vision. Now it's end of March, we're here. And now, hey, end of April, we're making a little bit more progress. Because without meetings, without budgets, without timelines, without teams, guess what? Your vision will just waver. It'll just waver. It'll just kind of twist in the wind. And you'll look up, it'll be the end of the year, and you didn't make the progress that you could have made if you would have been steadfast and consistent in implementing your vision. Well, I'd like to share with you a few closing thoughts from our session today. I hope that this session has provided you with a word of encouragement and a word of challenge to ultimately make a greater investment in yourself and in the vision that God has given you. You know, I find it amazing that we often, and again, I'm including myself in this, that we often have no problem making investments in jobs and people, in entities. But when it comes to making the investment in ourselves and in the vision that God has given us directly, that's where we like to hold back and take shortcuts and only give ourselves just enough to feel like we're doing something. And I'd like to encourage you to resist that temptation to give yourself just enough. Because I believe without a shadow of a doubt that your best life and your best self is connected to you investing wholeheartedly in the vision that God has given you. I know some people hear the word vision and visionary and think that it's so abstract and so that it's something that's only reserved for a certain select group of people. But the truth of the matter is, regardless who you are, where you come from, you are on earth for a specific purpose and a specific reason. I believe that there's a vision that lives inside of you that wants to come alive. And what I've seen is that as you make a bona fide investment in yourself and in your vision, that vision will do just that. It will begin to come alive. It will begin to grow. It will begin to kick. It will begin to be born inside of you. And that vision will not only impact you, but it can impact everyone in your sphere of influence and everybody that is connected to you. So please don't shortchange yourself. Don't shortchange your generation by failing to invest in yourself and into the vision that God has given you. This premise of a vision engineer is just not a concept. It's not just something that I dreamt up or thought up last night. It is actually my life work. I know that without a shadow of a doubt that I've been called to serve humanity as a vision engineer. I've found so much fulfillment, so much purpose in coming alongside visionaries, leaders, managers, directors, boards of directors, boards of advisors, and lending my gift to them so that the vision that they have can come to pass. So I know that this is more than a book, it's more than a message, it's more than a virtual summit or online webinar. This is my life, and I take it very seriously. And I believe in you. I may not know you, but I believe in you, and I believe in you fulfilling your potential by wholeheartedly going after what God has called you to do. If you'd like to connect with me, again, my name is Rufus Chambers, and my new book entitled, Does Your Vision Need an Engineer? It's available to you online at my website. My website is www.rufuschambers.online. Again, that's www.rufuschambers.online. My book is also available for you for purchase at Amazon. It's also available for purchase at Barnes & Noble. You can also connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Again, I'm pretty much present on all major social media platforms. I would love to connect with you, and I would also love to partner with you on the fulfillment of your vision. So again, I would like to thank you for tuning in to me today. I would like to thank you for this beautiful platform that Felecia Killings has made available to people like you and I to connect, to share, to edify, to encourage one another. So look forward to hearing the testimonies that will result from this summit. So once again, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in. God bless, and we'll connect soon.